Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Edward sent me a note and said, Steve, check out this story from Ohio. And this is the kind of thing that we hear about from time to time, and it's such a typical consumer transaction gone wrong. But the problem is, if it happened to you, what would you do about it? So the Attorney General in Ohio is suing an Ohio furniture store for allegedly defrauding customers out of $380,000. This is from WKRC. The Ohio Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against a company called Burke Decor, a Youngstown area retailer specializing in luxury home decor, after receiving more than 350 complaints from customers who reported paying for furnishings that never arrived. The estimated losses exceed $380,000. Now, I'm a busy man. That does involve some math, but it looks to be, on average, just a tad over $1,000 per person or per customer. So the AG filed the suit in a county common pleas court, aiming to hold the company and its owner accountable and to secure restitution for defrauded consumers. So the argument is that consumers paid for high-end furnishings but ended up with only frustration, says the AG. My office gave this company the opportunity to make this right, but empty promises don't fill homes, at least not with furniture. So the company operates 2 locations in Ohio and Los Angeles, as well as an outlet in Youngstown. The company also sells home furnishings through its website. Now, the Ohio Attorney General's office launched an investigation into the business last year, following a growing number of consumer complaints regarding non-delivery, slow delivery, and difficulty obtaining refunds. The company initially cooperated in resolving consumer disputes, but there were 256 consumer complaints remaining unresolved. So the lawsuit seeks restitution for the affected consumers, injunctive relief, presumably to keep this from happening again in the future, and civil penalties. And so that's interesting, and I'd like to point that out, that there are 3 different remedies being sought here. One is the AG is going, I want anybody who lost their money to get their money back. Number 2 is the injunctive relief. I want a court to order them to stop doing what they've been doing. We'll get to that in a second. And number 3, we want the court to impose a penalty, a fine, to discourage them from doing it in the future. And so think of a typical transaction. You walk into a store and you look and there's a couch. The couch is calling your name. You want to be on that couch watching the big game come Saturday or Sunday, depending on what you watch. And so you say, how much for the couch? They give you a price. You go, how long will it take to get it delivered? They go, let's pull out the schedule. They pull out a schedule and they go, we can have it to you on this date. They give you a date. You go, that's good. That's great. I want it on that date. You give them a bunch of money. The date comes and goes, and it doesn't show up. So how long do you wait before you get really upset? Presumably, you can call them and go, I didn't get my couch. And they're going to say, there's a problem with the factory, a problem with the delivery, problem with the warehouse. But they've got some kind of excuse. And I'm talking in generalities here because I've heard stories like this so many times in the 30-some-odd years I've been practicing law. And after a while, you go, okay, I'm starting to think this couch is never going to get here. I want my money back. They'll often point to the document you signed agreeing to buy the couch so you can't have your money back. Or you can have your money back but with a restocking fee or some nonsense. Except that if they promised to get you the couch on a certain day and it didn't arrive on that day, haven't they broken some kind of legal agreement? I'm sure there's legalese for it, but some kind of binding thingy? The reason I'm making fun of this is so painfully obvious. Yes, you gave them money. They promised to deliver something to you. They didn't deliver it to you. Boom, breach of contract. And so many states have got consumer laws on the books, and Michigan's got one too. And it used to be that an individual who'd been in this situation could sue not just to get their money back, but for the attorney fees and court costs of the action. Now, I know a lot of people go, Steve, you're the attorney. You're always talking about attorney fees. Why are you so greedy? Well, the reason I'm so greedy is when someone calls my office and goes, hey, Steve, I paid some money for a product that never got delivered. I go, how much to pay? $1,000. I say, okay, here's the problem. To file a lawsuit costs a couple $100 just for the filing fee. And then my attorney fees are going to be a few $100s. And by the time the dust settles, you could win, get your money back, but you owe it all to me. And I don't want to get involved in a situation where you're going to be looking at me going, well, he says we won, but he kept all that money. And no, I don't work for free either. And so when people call my office with stories like this, I have to tell them there's not much an attorney can do for you economically that would make feasible sense. However, you can complain to the AG's office, and if they get enough complaints, they'll follow up on it. So I've had friends who work for the Attorney General in the state of Michigan, and I've talked to them. And there's a consumer protection division, at least there used to be, and they tracked consumer complaints. And they got complaints every single day, and they had clerks who went through them looking for patterns or looking for repeat offenders. And if somebody popped up with hundreds of complaints against them and they've got a brick and mortar location right there, oh, you better believe they do something about it. And so you might ask and go, wait a second, this company's a big company. They've got 4 or 5 different locations and an outlet. How is this possible? Well, I'm not going to speculate on what happened here. But I can tell you that I've seen stories about businesses that sell big items, okay? And they often wind up in a situation where somebody comes in and buys something, and they promise delivery 3 weeks down the road. And they take the money that was used to buy that couch, for instance, and use it to pay some bills over here. And when someone comes in tomorrow and buys a couch, they say, well, we'll take that money and use it to get this couch. Except some more bills came in. Payroll hit. The phones are about to get disconnected. Okay, pay those bills and the payroll with some of this money here. And obviously the payroll wouldn't be paid by one couch. I'm just joking about that. But the point is that it becomes the functional equivalent of a Ponzi scheme. That is that the people are taking the money in and using it to pay off older debts. And what can happen is you can fall so far behind that it might be that to order the couch from the factory, they got to pay so much for it. And if they don't have that money because they used the money for something else, maybe they didn't pay that to get the couch shipped. Who knows? Who knows? But I've dealt with some big businesses like this before. I've never had any major problems like this. Now, I did with a mail order company a few years back that sold things like, stereos and so on. And the last time I bought a big stereo, I'm talking about the graphic equalizer and the CD changer and all that stuff. And I remember speaking to them on the phone, but this was a national company with a catalog, and they now have an internet presence, but they had no locations in the state of Michigan. And I remember I had problems with them. I eventually got my stuff. But there was caused by just other inept people, I believe. I think they had the money to order the parts. They just didn't do it on time. But the point simply is that when you're dealing with a business, some of these businesses nowadays are running into trouble. There have been a couple big businesses that sold furniture in the state of Michigan that went out of business or got bought up by other people in the last few years because of the conditions in this industry. And so I'm not a big believer in Yelp or Google reviews or any of that stuff. You never know how true any of it is, right? However, I suspect if you go and look at the Yelp reviews for this company, you're going to find a whole raft of them. And, if you see 1 or 2 reviews, hey, this business is horrible, this business, whatever. 1 or 2 reviews, you go, okay, that could be a crackpot. We don't know. But hundreds of people, you start to wonder about it. So the good news here is the AG will handle it. It's not going to cost the people involved in this case anything because the AG is going to handle it. That's what their taxpayer dollars go for. So if the AG can get a settlement or get this resolved, that's great. But like I said, unfortunately, in some states like Michigan, we had a law on the books, but our Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, struck it down when it comes to actions by private individuals against businesses. It's a long story. Not going to go into it here, but just here you go. In Ohio, the Attorney General is suing a furniture store for allegedly defrauding customers out of $380,000. And the action or inaction is they took the money and didn't provide the furniture. And that, of course, is not a good thing. So WKRC reported that. Edward sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path.